Thanks for downloading this episode from Teachers Talk Radio. You can find the full schedule and listen back to all our shows at ttradio.org. Enjoy the podcast.
This evening, we're going to be exploring, well, a couple of things are going to happen actually. So around 6 months ago, I had the opportunity to interview Martin, who will, as we speak, is probably clicking on the Spaces link and then working his way to the request to speak or becoming a speaker. So he had a chance to interview Martin about his work in schools, our shared fascination of stories and students and working with teachers, helping us to get better. Really enjoyed it. And Martin offered to come and interview the other way around in later this year. So here we are. This is the plan. We both find we get a lot of motivation from doing interesting things. We get motivation from exploring interesting areas in schools. And the one that we've been thinking quite a lot about recently is AI in education and where it's going, but in particular, what it means to students and how it affects their future plans, but also what it means to teachers and maybe what we as schools could, should, or shouldn't do, because there's lots of contested and competing demands and statements about what schools should and shouldn't do. We're just going to explore some of that. So while I'm giving Martin a chance to join, he's the Vespa Mindset link. I think he may be with us there. Fantastic. We have a brief word from our sponsors. So Martin, I'll give you a chance to get settled. This evening's show is brought to us by Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetteLearning.com to explore the full range of titles. And also the Chalk and Talk podcast. If you're looking for another great education podcast, check out Chalk and Talk with Anna Stock. Anna is a passionate advocate for evidence-based math education for students of all ages. On her podcast, she talks about everything from effective teaching methods and how-to guides for teaching math facts to tips for evaluating research shows type claims. She brings top-notch guests, educators, researchers, and policymakers, and discusses issues that directly impact teachers and students. Chalk and Talk is for everyone or anyone interested in education. Find it wherever you get your podcasts. And lastly, but by no means least, AQA. AQA know teachers are the real experts in the classroom. That's why they work closely with teachers like you, combining your insight with their assessment expertise to create resources, tools, training and guidance that genuinely make a difference. They're the UK's most chosen assessment organisation, so chances are you already know their work and work with them already. As we make our way into this new school year, AQA are focused on helping teachers feel supported and ready. If you want to find out more about how they're working with teachers like you, just head to their website or search AQA, We Work with Experts. Okay, I think Martin is with us. Good evening, Martin.
Hi, Ben. How are you? You okay?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm really pleased that you're on board and looking forward to this reversing of the roles.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to this one too. I've got my questions ready. Are you sitting comfortably?
I am sitting comfortably, so let's begin.
Yeah, let's begin with the same question you started our interview with all those months ago. Ben, why don't you tell us the story so far? How did you get to where you are? What's your journey been? Why don't we begin with that one?
Okay, so there's a long story. We're going to go short first.
Okay.
I just follow interesting things. So my RS teacher, Peter Cole, who also helped me in the first years of teaching, his advice was pursue the things you find interesting and motivating. And within my career, I've tried to do that. So I've just followed interesting things. And that's taken me from teaching to some researching, some writing, working with other schools, bits of leadership. That's how I've got to here.
Can you talk us through some of the things that have hooked your attention across your teaching career then? Are you a bit of a magpie? Are you a gadfly following idea after idea, whatever seems to interest you? Or are you a little bit more logical, strategic?
I think a little of column A, a little of column B. So I started out, before becoming a teacher, my plan was to be a seminary professor, so working in a theological college teaching new ministers. So I was quite into meaning from a young age, I think it's fair to say. And then when I left the church, I then went into what seemed like a similar career for someone who is no longer religious, helping people understand the world around them. That's what got me into RE teaching.
Yeah.
So I sort of grabbed by I think it was meaning was the thing that really drew me.
Fabulous. And then since then, there have been elements of the puzzle that have presented themselves as a teacher, and you've become interested in, I don't know, particular characteristics or qualities of students, or effective ways of delivering information, or best
Yes.
classroom practice.
Yeah, making sense of the school and how it works, how best to convey ideas, I guess, of the teaching side of it, understanding students and how they think and what they're experiencing in the lesson. And then I really enjoy finding or reading other people's perspectives of what's going on in a classroom or school.
Yeah, I get it. Now, listen, every story, and you're telling us yours at the moment, every story needs a good antagonist, doesn't it? Okay, if you're questing, if you're journeying, looking for meaning and studying complexity and working out how schools work, you're going to need some sort of nemesis, I guess. So why don't we begin there? What are you kind of aligned against? What frightens you at the moment? What scares you? What kind of interests you in current education?
So yeah, that's not a bad question. What scares me? Sometimes the uncertainty
Yeah,
and what's happening next, that can be concerning or disconcerting. And recently I've been, don't want to dodge the question, but I've become interested in that question for others. So for teachers and for students, they all experience that school differently, lessons, planning, whatever it is they happen to be doing. And I'm kind
yeah.
of interested in what in any given moment they might be scared or concerned about and why that's happening, and then what we can do about that.
So what are you hearing when you talk to students at the moment? What are you hearing they might have concerns about, or fears about potentially?
Well, one area that surprised me, maybe more than it should do, is I've been looking at AI in school. So whether there's like a place for it or not, I don't think that's the right sort of question. Um,
That
but
ship has
it's,
sailed, surely.
yeah, well, I think that ship has sailed. And then it was just, so I've always been big on, there's a guy called Nick Hart who put some great stuff out on Twitter and elsewhere about school leadership and really trying to listen to lots of perspectives about what's going on. I always try and do that, try and listen to experts, but also listen to the students of what they're saying.
Absolutely.
So I've been speaking to a lot of students about AI and what they think it is and what they feel about it. And there's a large minority that absolutely hate it. They're not ambivalent, they're not unsure, they are sure and they hate it. And they also use it most days. So,
Oh, fascinating. So how does this antagonism like express itself? Have you sat down with groups of students and said, okay, it's clear you've got these very strong feelings. What's at the root of these? What's you thinking?
yeah, we've done a few things around that. So like little focus groups. I'm always a bit suspicious of focus groups when young children, or young people, they hate AI. Why do they hate AI? They give 3 reasons. So do you want those 3?
Yeah, let's listen to them. This is fascinating because I have to say, Ben, this reflects conversations I've been having as well. So I'd be interested to see how your learners justify their antagonism or their negative position.
So the most commonly cited one is that they are um, they they concerned about the environment. So they think their problem is that I'm doing it again. I'm gonna have to. Can you fill for 30 seconds while I stop my children pinging all
Absolutely,
my
yeah,
devices? Because like
yeah.
it's pinging incessantly. I'm really sorry.
No
I'll be
problem at all.
I'll be back in 1 minute's time.
And in the meantime, let's have a. I'm going to express some of what I've discovered, or at least what I've heard students express when it comes to AI. there tend to be different camps depending upon what they're studying, what their ambitions and interests are. I get particularly strong reactions from students who are creative. So when you're speaking to artists, dramatists, actors, creative writers, poets, photographers, filmmakers, these are students who have a particularly strong take on what they might refer to as slop. So there's often that kind of camp. They feel quite strongly that this is going to undermine the quality of popular music, or it's going to, I guess, knock the edges off what might be a very personal, interesting project and turn it into something much more anodyne. So
I'm back.
there's that kind of creative student who feels that AI is potentially, I guess, destroying nuance and individuality. What about other students? Have you heard students from different backgrounds, and not necessarily the drama students, the artists, the creative writers, that have, I mean, you're mentioning their ecological concern.
Yeah, so I'm very sorry, very unprofessional, and maybe poor parenting, I don't know. But we're back.
Probably a bit from column A and a bit from
Little,
column B.
little column B. And anyways, that's all good. So the reason the students gave, they fit into 3 categories. I think you were just picking up on that futures one, which comes up quite a bit. The most common was the environment, and they're fairly polemical statements about AI ruining the environment because of energy and water usage. And that's quite a lot of students. So this minority, I got 100 or so students to write their thoughts down. And it's about 30 or 37 of them. So quite a large group.
Oh, that's a significant minority.
They're the large minority. And then within that, the most commonly cited reason is the environment. Then the second one is a bit broader. I don't know if it's 1 or 2 categories really, but it's about AI's capacity to cheat. And that comes from angle A is, other students cheating makes me look bad as a student, so that's concerning.
So this student is saying, I've submitted a legitimate piece of work that may be awarded a lower grade than my buddy here, who's done it in 10 minutes and asked for ChatGPT to generate an answer instead.
Yes. So that's definitely a concern that's raised. And that's therefore more likely. So I would teach in a secondary school, it's a homework related. It's less common within the lesson, but in a one-to-one devices school like ours, there is some AI use in school. And then you've got concerns that are more sort of reflective about the fact that it won't help them in the long run. So they worry because it helps them to get things done. And they're kind of voicing that concern that they might use it in the short term. But it's what that does for them. It doesn't help them. They realize they're kind of cheating themselves, that kind of classic teacher line.
That's a really interesting one. And I can echo that one. I've heard that a lot from students who are hyper aware of the potential that AI has to solve their problems quickly, but to paint them into a corner, to mix metaphors,
Yes.
That they might find themselves with a significantly weaker problem-solving muscle as a result of using this tool.
Yes, and I think that interests me as a teacher as well. Interest maybe is the wrong word, but it kind of changes the balance a bit, doesn't it, in the classroom? So I think we've spoken before about maybe the Nuttall problem.
Yeah, talk us through the Nuttall problem.
So it's Nuttall's framing. Well, he's the author of The Secret Lives or Hidden Lives of Learners. Like an interesting study of school based upon recording and watching students' interactions with each other and teachers. And one of his insights, among many, is that students sort of gain their job is doing just the right amount of work to make the teacher go away or leave them alone. So too little and you're exposed and you're going to be asked extra questions and maybe brought in for intervention or whatever it might be, and too much and you gain too much attention and maybe lose some respect or status from peers depending on the school, but you do just the right amount to make them go away. And the problem for students and then for many teachers now would be that AI gives them a really good way of doing that.
Absolutely. And you know what, that I've heard that Nuttall's idea expressed in goal theory as well. Look at how academic goals are set, and there are a number of interesting papers around this. And one element of goal setting seems to be what academics refer to as performance avoidance goal setting. Now, this means that a student wants to appear as homogenous and anonymous as possible, not landing towards the top of the class where their work might be used as an exemplar and they might lose face, and neither landing towards the bottom of the class where they might be required to do additional work. So performance avoidance seems to be what Nuttall's kind of reaching for there.
Yeah, I think so. And then, yes, I think that seems to be it. It's just get it just the right amount. Sometimes someone who's written about it more recently as well, Adam Boxer, talks about busy tricking, which is a similar sort of thing where you look like you're working, but you're not really thinking. And I think AI is essentially, it's good at all those things, isn't it? It's good at doing that stuff. So students, it's not about whether they're completely right or wrong, but it's just interesting that a large minority are very concerned or anti-AI. Environment's a big issue, cheating's a big issue, and then there's the future issue as well.
And you know what? Let's pick up on that future issue. How well informed can we expect students or indeed staff to be on this one? It's difficult, isn't it? I was reading let me just take a slight detour for a moment. I was reading an interesting study about radiographers. Okay, the use of AI to analyze, you're familiar with this, to analyze X-ray images, brain scans, and so on. And we hear, don't we, repeatedly, oh, an AI can do this to an incredibly high degree and remove human error entirely. And yet, a recent study has shown that radiographers are not working less hard as a result of this. A couple of things emerged. First, it turned out that if you're a radiographer, less than 40% of your time is spent looking at scans. Okay, the rest of the time you're interacting with peers and colleagues. You're speaking to patients. You're filling out paperwork. You're bidding for additional funding, whatever else it might be. Okay, so it turns out radiographers don't spend all their time looking at images. And then secondly, what the study found was that radiographers simply did more image analysis. Their capacity to work increased. And let's face it, they began then looking for other things they could scan. So could we improve health this way or that way? In fact, could the technology be used like this? And so instead of this very simple, blunt prediction that we're not going to need radiographers anymore, what we found was something much more nuanced in the study. What they found, that in fact, it was going to perhaps change the way the work was done, but not remove it entirely. What do you make of that very long detour, Ben?
Well, it's good detour. It's good detour. There's a really interesting book while we were on the detour by a guy called Ros Atkins called The Art of the Explanation, which is brilliant.
He's the BBC journalist.
Right? He's the BBC journalist, and he talks about when you give an explanation, if you're going to give a reference, either include an explanation of the reference if you think everyone won't understand it, or drop it. That might be a future show we can come back to, because what you did there was you brought your reference in and when none of us know it, so you're telling us, and it's just an interesting thing, isn't it? But anyway, so that was interesting, and the story's interesting because of that nuance, I think. So the reason I'm speaking to students isn't to find out what's going to happen with AI. That would be an error. But finding out what they think is kind of important. And there's also, obviously, a lot of students know a lot more than me about many different things. But I think the idea that we need a nuanced response to it is one of the things that stands out. Absolutely. So across all three of those areas, you've got environment is a big deal, but it's not cut and dried as to the impact that AI has compared to other tech. And there's some interesting research around, because should we do that bit by bit? Maybe that's the best way.
Yeah, take us through that section.
So one meme that's been cited, or just idea that's been cited by several, cited is a bit pretentious. They just said in their written responses that one AI search uses 500 milliliters of water, which is based in a study that looked at energy use and AI, but that's based on the energy for the AI coming from coal-fired power stations in the US, which makes up 80% of that figure. So that's an interesting thing in itself. So AI's energy use isn't a problem in itself. It's a problem depending on where the energy comes from. So I'm not defending AI. It does use a huge amount of energy, but it's not as simple as it first looks, because solar powered AI, you know, is different from coal fired AI, and the cooling is an issue as well. Then you've got, how much is it as a part of my daily energy use? And there's some interesting research around this.
Of my daily energy.
Yeah, so what proportion of my daily energy use would AI be if I was a moderate to high AI user? And it's still relatively small.
Yeah.
So I don't know where, it doesn't leave us with AI is fine. It doesn't use much energy. It uses a huge amount of energy. So I think there was one estimate that said it uses about as much as Belgium in total, or it will do soon. And that's a lot. But Belgium isn't a lot of the whole world. So it's a complex one.
Yeah.
And some of those students who are not using AI are using social media quite a lot. And it's not like I'm not trying to catch them out. It's just, it's messy. So if you're using tech, you're using AI. If you're using Google, using AI, this is just how it is. So
yeah, you can't untangle those.
no, it's a question of degree, and there's probably some stuff that we need to cut back on, but it's just an interesting thing. And I wonder whether that strong anti-AI because of environment argument is based in a genuine concern about the world, which is, the younger you are, the more concerning it is. And we maybe don't grasp it because we're older, but it also expresses a feeling as much as it does the argument itself, of this general dislike of the thing, which is in itself really interesting.
So there's the ecological angle. And then we move into this concern about cheating, this concern about, I guess, some sort of arms race in which
Yes.
I may be cornered eventually and have to use it if my peers are. And it becomes a kind of baked in expectation that all work is going to be of at least this standard because everyone's going to use AI.
Yes. And I think that it's hard to tackle that issue without really thinking about how learning works and what school's for and what students are doing and what teachers are doing, because there's so much in it, isn't there? So you've got, first of all, one response to the problem of AI is to say, well, we don't use it in the classroom, and if your homework is AIable, it's not a very good homework.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
Teachers, have you heard of Bet UK 2026? It's the world's biggest education and technology event, and it's completely free for educators. From keynote speakers and panel sessions to CPD accredited workshops and networking, Bet UK 2026 is where educators from across the globe come together to share ideas, spark inspiration, and find solutions that fuel our mission to drive better education globally. Get your free ticket today at betshow.com.
Yeah, and now that's an argument you will hear quite regularly, won't it? We have to redesign home. Anything that can be completed by ChatGPT wasn't a good enough task in the first place. What do you make of that?
I think there's some merit in it, and there's a lot of merit in thinking really carefully about homework and what it's for. And one of the things we've discussed on this show the last 6-7 episodes is whether homework is worth the work, whether it's helping. I think some homeworks are very AIable. So writing an essay for homework is probably not a good idea, but I don't think it was a good idea 4 years ago, because students would be compelled to either draw on others for help, parents, siblings, other students, if they found it difficult. And if they found it difficult, writing an essay badly isn't great. So there's one response is to go, yes, do think carefully about homeworks, and maybe they're prep tasks, and you tell the student next lesson you're going to be doing this. Yeah. And this is how you get ready, by doing A, B, and C.
Yeah.
If they use AI to do that, that's fine. If they can come in and do it, I'm quite relaxed about it. But it's not quite that simple, because I think some platforms that look like they could plausibly be good homework or effective in that they are consolidating things the student already knows, asking retrieval questions, a bit of elaboration, a bit of kind of shoring up what you can farm them to an AI agent and it will do them for you. So it's not just a design of homework problem, it is a problem.
Absolutely. Yeah, I see. Okay. And then we've got this notion of, I suppose, what kind of is being asked, what is being outsourced? That's the kind of question I'm getting to, I guess, because I suppose you could argue there are different types. There's transactional AI use. I'm going to outsource the learning entirely so that I can save time. And I suppose that's what we're getting at, aren't we, by asking a ChatGPT to write an essay on our behalf, a kind of transactional replacement of my effort with the effort
Yes.
of someone else.
And that takes you
Something
to
else.
sort of cognitive outsourcing, doesn't it? You're getting someone else to do the thinking for you. And I think lots of people are writing and thinking in this area. So I know Peps McRae last year put out a post to one of his little snappy bites things, I think, where he talked about whoever does the thinking gets the learning. So farm out the hard bit, and it's a problem. There was a really interesting post, I think by Daisy Christodoli recently, looking at the same issue. Is society becoming less intelligent? Is tech taking away our capacity to think hard about things regularly so that we are less effective at those things? And there are concerns there for sure about AI and its role in that.
Christodoulou is not the only one to express them, is she? There's been some there's been a kind of big splash recently on Substack, hasn't there, with the Times journalist James Marriott's kind of polemic about a kind of post-literate society. I don't know whether you're familiar with that piece.
Yes, and again, I think it's the nuance is the thing, and it's very difficult and sort of ironic that in a world where we're getting our information fed by algorithms that are pattern recognition, they're giving me the stuff that I find most interesting. That's what they're doing. It creates a very polemical argument about a tech that almost, well, we just casually been using the word AI. I guess we're mainly talking about large language models.
Yeah, we are.
But even that needs more nuance. So it does get quite messy. And the idea that you can just do it or not do it, I think, is the wrong question, probably. So yes, redesign homework so that students are less, they're nudged away from using AI to complete them. And then, yes, don't make your lessons or classwork as such that it's very easy to AI or give students access to that. But it's not a binary use it or not use it option, I don't think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And then I suppose talk us through another type of AI use. We've just talked about transactional AI use, outsourcing thinking. What about interactional or interactive AI use? Have you got any ideas or reflections on how AI might be used in an more interactive way, conversational way, perhaps?
Well, on the conversational front, I have to stress that I'm not a language teacher and my Spanish is weak. I've been working with some language teachers recently, looking at literally conversational AI and using it kind of a back and forth in the target language. And it just seems like it's set up for that.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. So there's some things that were less interactive, but they seem ready to go now. So some of the new GCSE structure for Spanish has one practice paper or whatever they're called, the exemplar ones that come before.
Yeah.
And you want more. It's really good at that. It needs a bit of tweaking, but you can say there's some questions that are on X, Y, and Z. Can you help me with some more that are the same structure but different topics? Or
yeah, absolutely.
For listenings as well. So a friend Dan's been playing with this a bit, where teachers have said what they want is some listenings, the clips that students listen to and answer questions on in the target language in a different accent at a different pace, ready to go. So it's not just them. So they say it's always me that does the listenings for them, and I don't sound like the ones they hear. So a Southern Spanish accent or a Northern Spanish accent or a Mexican Spanish accent, you can get it to speak with that accent at the speed that you think is appropriate, using the language that you want it to use. There seems to be so many things that it's quite good at, that the idea that it doesn't have a place in a school at all doesn't sit with me. But I think it's probably, you always need to step back and think about AI in school, non-teaching, teaching, and students, I think, to start off make sense of what you're planning to do.
Okay, so that's an interesting distinction. Talk us through those: non-teaching, teaching, and students.
So we're going for non-teaching. There are some things that pattern recognition is quite good at.
Data analysis, for example.
Some data analysis, like a lot of attendance programs now have it kind of built into them, where they flag up people particular, maybe worth following up on. Some administrative tasks, some content checking, or at least production. So the history teachers come back from a trip to don't know, somewhere interesting. They've written a really quick update and you want to make it better. AI is pretty good at that. But improving the quality of output and checking it.
Yeah.
I think that weirdly is an area, because people getting into it in schools tend to be teachers and school leaders. There's probably more that we can do. I know in our school, we're looking at sitting down with people in the administrative roles and looking at what is your workflow, what are the things that this could speed it up with, what are the ones we don't want to use it for. But that, again, that's already a question of degree. It's like, how much will we do that, what will we not allow? That's one. Then you've got the teaching resources side. This is maybe a little bit more controversial, but I don't
there are
think
potential
hugely.
pitfalls here, aren't there, Ben? Surely.
Yeah. So one thing when speaking with students, we found is when teachers go on about how great AI is, and maybe I'm prone to do that when I'm interested in something, is to mention it, then use it with a resource that's rubbish or has errors in. That's like a big own goal. And we have students mentioning
It's a huge own goal.
Yeah, it's a big own goal. Puts them off, it puts them off the teacher. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Yes. And maybe that's just what happens. Like, if you tell teachers use it to make resources, and you have the proviso that says, but you have to check them, you're responsible for it. There's this weird little logical loop, which is if I don't know the thing well enough to make the resource, and I've made the resource, then me checking it isn't going to stop it from being bad. So there's that problem, but also teachers rushing. And yet also I do use it for resources that I think have made my lessons better.
Okay.
With this kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
So for example, like I've been teaching A-level sociology for 20 years or so, and I try and design the course with a model that if you come to the lessons and you complete the check questions between lessons and at the start, and you engage in the tasks, you're going to learn it. So that's the design principle, and that has with it lots of questions that build, and lots of teachers have this, a bank of questions that students answer, a few at the beginning, and then over the 18 months of the A-level or so, they start reviewing questions and then check them against notes or the textbook. But there's a bit of a jump between my questions and the answers that are hidden in a text or in students' notes that may or may not exist. So I used AI to help me write some quick prompt answers using the source material, my own like booklet, and then the questions I'd written in a way that was fast and pretty good. And then we started to change a little bit some of the things we did in lessons. So every few weeks, my year 13 students take on a selection of the questions as a way of sort of encouraging them to work through this program.
Yeah.
And that takes about 40 minutes. And some of them get a bit stuck because they're being asked something they've not thought about for 3 or 4 months. And I thought it'd be nice to have a prompt and maybe a few ideas to get them started for any of those questions. So I made them with AI back and forth, use the resource, give me some prompts. And I looked at what the students did in the lesson, and who knows, because their writing is always a proxy for real learning, and maybe they're writing more but learning less. But all I know is the student that would have sat for 20 minutes without knowing what to do next had looked at the prompts and they were away and they wrote a lot of stuff.
Interesting.
There was some links that said, who knows this, but you can't separate the AI from the pedagogy, can you? That's the thing. I just think if as a professional, there are things I do to make resources, whether I'm Googling it, whether I'm grabbing something from tests, whether I'm doing some back and forth with AI. I think I should be accountable for the resource, but how I've made it, provided I've not broken any GDPR or copyright rules, I'm relaxed about that.
Right, that's interesting. So we're beginning to tease out different uses here. We've got the transactional use, we've got the kind of interactive conversational use, but I think you're hitting upon something else here, a kind of cultivation use, the idea that a student might use the AI as a second teacher. Have you?
Well, so that's an interesting one. And I think I went for the hype. When you first switch on an AI or an LLM and you back and forth, it's clever stuff. And I've used it to try and learn things, and I think I've learnt the thing. And I've spoken to adults, Becky Allen from Teacher Tap and elsewhere, economists and analysts who says in her organisation they use it to learn things. They don't do online courses. They don't pay for courses. They want to learn something. They get on AI and they start a back and forth to learn said thing. So I'm also happy with the idea that as an adult, I can use AI to learn things if I want to learn something. So that's, I think is possible. Just, qualifications and the like, but it's pretty good at that. But then it's a big jump to the student using it for that.
Yeah, and I've not seen a vast amount of evidence that the kind of cultivation of skill development is being used to the same extent as transactional. Let's finish. Let's get
Get
this
the work
paperwork
done,
out of the
make
way.
the teacher
Yeah,
go away.
yeah,
Yes, I think maybe if there was the best, most likely time for it to happen, if I've got an exam the next day that I matters to me, so maybe a GCSE or
yeah,
whatever, maybe in my school, this mock exam I really worry about, and I'm thinking of using AI, I'm not thinking of using it to trick anyone. I'm trying to learn stuff.
yeah.
So I think that's the most likely moment for a student to use it constructively.
Ask me 10 questions about this topic.
Yes, or I've got a summary sheet, but I don't fully understand it. I'm uploading a photo and I want some help with this.
Yeah,
Like that's the moment when it's most likely. And I think at least theoretically, it's quite good at it. It's not
yeah,
perfect at it. And that's the problem. Because I think we hold on to the same accountability bar as like a driverless car.
yeah.
So
That's right, and that's a problem of our kind of conception of the AI, isn't it? That we expect that a high level of accountability.
yeah, I know it's something that Beck Allen, I think, is writing about at the moment is the error rate. And there's this, I've only skimmed Reddit, so I don't know if I'm misquoting, but the idea that the first 90% of a model is relatively doable, and then the next 9% of success rate. So getting to 90% is a big job and you feel like you've achieved it. And the next 9% is the same amount of work again.
Absolutely.
Then
Yeah.
that final 0.9. So at the moment, one of the concerns would be if that student is using AI to revise my sociology the night before an A-level exam, it might make a mistake.
Hmm.
And it could do, because it's going to give the most plausible sounding thing based on the likely words rather than knowing. So I guess that's possible, but then I'm not there to help that afternoon or evening.
Yeah.
And teachers make mistakes and my error rate's probably higher.
Precisely what I was going to mention. What's
which
your
is it's an
rate?
interesting
What's my
thing.
error rate? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I don't know where we go with that, because I guess if you wait until it's errorless, you can't really get started. But it is a genuine problem, and it's the sort of thing that puts people off. So when that teacher's saying AI is great and then throwing out a multiple choice quiz where the letters don't match and there's no answer,
Yeah.
for example, it's just say it's entirely made that up as an example. That's put off the kid and the teacher.
Yeah.
From using a thing that may be better than having no quiz at all. Like, I don't know. So it's a messy one, isn't it? But I think that's the one that interests me most. So in my school, we're leaning towards some very specific access to AI. So we're a one-to-one device school.
Yeah.
And we're thinking Gemini for teens, maybe switching on for year 11 plus.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Because they're near exams, so they may use it constructively.
Much more likely to use it constructively than to outsource some learning in a
maybe
that's the bit that they want.
That is the guess. That is a bit of a guess.
Yeah.
And it's also trackable in a way that other language models are not. So obviously there's Microsoft is available as well if you're a Microsoft school, and I think GPT are getting in on it as well. But if you have the enterprise tech version, then you can see what users are searching for, and you can download a single user's history. But there's a big qualification, which is knowing what LLMs are, which is hard to understand. And Geoffrey Hinton is really good on it. So if anyone listening is keen to spend an hour really thinking about what AI is, what
a large language model AI is.
Yes, he really walks through. He's known as sort of the godfather of large language models. He walks through his early research and why the tech wasn't good enough for him to make the thing in the 1980s, but the principle of machine learning and layers of understanding of building up is really interesting. So he's good for that. Knowing what AI is, though, also helps you to understand what it isn't, which is it's not entirely predictable. So even in my usage case, saying we might allow students access to Gemini for teens, there are some concerning applications of it that one would need to think about. Well, the one that just sticks in my head is probably, as a specific concern, it's probably been designed out a little bit now. But Common Sense Media did a stress test and like a risk assessment for Gemini for Teams, so to release to organizations. Now, Common Sense Media, my understanding is that they are a fairly conservative media organization in the States, and maybe listeners who are parents will use them to look up movies and what age they think is appropriate for, and some storyline information, or just to avoid duff films, which are watching with kids. But they do that. So they're quite conservative. So that's the qualification. And they've done a stress test of Gemini for Teams, which has these guardrails in to stop students using it as a companion. And we could spend a lot of time just on that, but the most common use of LLMs is as a companion. Rather than
this, we're talking here about not transaction, but interaction.
Yeah, so people interacting with it as if it's a person that can help you and give you advice. And there's an interesting tangent there, which we can come back to. So this Gemini for Teams has been discouraged from doing that. It tells you what it is. And also concerning issues that a student might raise, it's trained to not answer or to give you constructive advice. So someone types, "It's been a horrible day, OMG, I want to kill myself," for example. It says, useful stuff. Are you okay? Make sure you speak to an adult. Here's some helplines. Don't forget X, Y, and Z. Pretty good stuff. So that's good. But then in the same chat, that tester has been logged in as a team. They've done that. They've been told good advice. They've then said, yeah, forget that. I'm in the kitchen, or in my kitchen, what's poisonous? And it says, I can tell you. The most toxic thing to consume would be this, which is just because it doesn't know. That's that error rate again, but that's a bigger deal than getting a A-level question wrong, isn't it? And that's
absolutely
whether that's design outable, I don't know.
Yes, because there's a contextual kind of semantic element here that the large language model can't account for.
Yes. So that there's just a lot to think about, isn't there? There
is. And do you know what? That brings me on to my tall tales question. It's an interesting one, this. Schools are storytelling machines. We're telling stories at the moment about the future of AI is coming for your jobs, or there aren't going to be any jobs in the future in this area or this area. We are storytelling machines. Are you hearing tall tales, AI tall tales, that you really think, hang on a minute, we need to be much more careful about the way in which we talk about the potential or not of this technology?
Yes. So there's a lot again in that question. I think it's really important to go slowly and to think carefully about what we're saying, because in a school working with children and also with staff who are unsure about the future, there'll be lots of concerns about what's coming next. So I don't know whether I'm just reading the wrong stuff, but my impression is we don't really know where it's going, and my justification for that is that people cleverer than me are saying completely opposite things about AI. So I guess if you put it in three camps, you've got one, it is overhyped, it's a bubble, it's hit a kind of wall because it's creating more and more junk and isn't able to do the stuff that it looks like it can. It's going to go in this loop for a while and then the bubble will burst. That's one option. Then you've got one sort of middle ground one that says, well, it has considerable capacity, processing power is still increasing, it's able to do quite a lot now. It's as bad now as it ever will be, and it already is really good for stuff. It has the potential to really make a difference to lots of areas of life, including teaching. And then there's the third one, and this is clever people, cleverer than me, who've thought about it more than me, saying it's an absolute disaster for humanity. So all three of those things are being said. I think being aware that it's a contentious issue, just being aware that 1 in 3 or 4 of my students are really worried about it, makes me think twice about making flippant statements.
Precisely. I was going to come on to this kind of flippant or offhand comment. Talk through that.
So saying, for example, of course coding is dead, but I'm not a coder, I don't know that, I don't really understand fully what coding is, Martin. I've got a rough idea, but I've listened to a few podcasts, and I'm saying that to a group of students, some of whom want to get into games design. That's not okay for me to do that. And also, I try to ask more people. So I met a coder on the train a couple of days ago. He seems to know his onions, but again, as I've said, I don't know what coding is, so I could be wrong. But he's built a big AI powered app, and he's not at all concerned about AI taking his job. He's very relaxed. He says, "No, my job is going to exist. It's going to be different."
Yeah,
And
it'll just
on
be
that
different.
question, he's more informed than me because he is a coder. It's his job. He's recently trained. So yeah.
Now, I write fiction, so I will get questions like, "So what's the point? Well, there aren't going to be any writers, are there? We're gonna be reading AI generated fiction." And I think I've got a fairly decent insight into the state of the fiction market at the moment, and I don't think that's going to be the case. And there are some really interesting test cases that seem to be suggesting that there isn't a great market for AI generated fiction at all, for example. But it would be quite easy for a teacher to, again, a flippant offhand remark. Of course, we're not going to need people to write books, or we're not going to need movie makers or camera operators. Well, it's all going to be CGI, isn't it? In 20 years, it's difficult, isn't it?
It's difficult to know. I
Tell
think
the wrong story.
Yeah, keep it. So then it's what the story you do tell now really matters, doesn't it? So I think avoiding a binary.
Yeah.
So we do or don't do AI as a school. It's not an option. You don't want to do it all for sure, and you can't do none. So you've got to have a clear what's our role, and you can't unpack any of that without really thinking about what the school is for and how schools work and what students are doing in a lesson, how teachers are thinking. There's so many things going on.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe what we want to help people in our organization to understand about AI, like the basics of how it works. Then some specific usage principles or things that you think are okay or not okay. Got to work through those almost one by one.
Yeah, you would.
And then avoiding that.
There'd have to be really clear exemplars of real life situations, I guess.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
Teachers, have you heard of Bet UK 2026? It's the world's biggest education and technology event, and it's completely free for educators. From keynote speakers and panel sessions to CPD accredited workshops and networking, Bet UK 2026 is where educators from across the globe come together to share ideas, spark inspiration, and find solutions that fuel our mission to drive better education globally. Get your free ticket today at betshow.com.
Yes. Yeah, and I think so. It's hard because we're all sort of building this while we're flying it. This is just how schools work, isn't it? Very often. So not rushing is a good idea, I think. So I kind of joke about going slowly, but we're trying deliberately to go slowly.
Yeah.
But also we're aware there are teachers who want to rush ahead and there are students who are rushing ahead. And you can't do nothing forever. And once eventually there's constantly DFE missives about what you should and shouldn't do. We've not even got into them, but there's lots of policy papers talking about the incredible power of AI to transform education coming from the DFE and the UK government that need thinking about because they're clearly backing it as. And I think you just have to go a little slowly and think about how you present it. So I'm thinking a lot about that minority of students when I'm speaking to students now, and when I'm talking about AI within lessons and what I'm doing or not doing with it. And then I think avoiding overly dramatic claims.
Yeah.
So far, like historically, jobs have existed. They've just changed, haven't they?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's easy for us because we have a job and we're established career that isn't going to change because of AI, or it's not going to disappear. Whereas if you're 15 or 16 and the future that you are imagining is constantly being reshaped, that's a very different position that you're in. So I think it's really worth thinking about that when we're making any proclamations about where things are heading.
There's a really interesting Ipsos Mori poll that highlights the existence of what they call nouveau nihilism amongst young people. The feeling that there's no point in planning for the future because the level of uncertainty is so overwhelming that a period of inactivity is probably more sensible.
Yes, and that does seem to be substantively different about the world, at least from when I was in school, not that long ago, like 20 something years ago, it felt like things were getting better. It was a different time. So there's that to bear in mind.
Yeah.
And probably, so I interviewed Becky. I've mentioned her a couple of times in this show because we talked about AI a couple episodes back, so I can reshare under this as well. And she's got kids, youngish kids. She said for them, she says the best thing they can do is get a fairly broad and balanced education. So it's likely that some professions and careers will be disrupted in ways we don't fully understand yet.
Yeah.
So maybe a particular form of law or copy editing or coding, those jobs will change, but you think with what you know, don't you? So developing a good overall understanding of the world and the subjects you find interesting is kind of your best bet. And that the pace of change won't be overnight. It's not like Elon Musk's speed. So he's promised a couple times that things will be transformed by dates that have now come and gone.
Yeah, and he's not the only one, is that increasingly there's this feeling actually progress isn't going to be as fast as we thought.
Yes, and I think that's good, because actually some of the more dramatic concerns raised by people who've thought about it a lot, so the books and reflections and shows and experts, the biggest worry is the speed of development that's super fast is harder to control and brings more problems. So slower is probably better anyway.
Yeah.
And then over 10, 15, 20 years, the jobs market changes, but jobs will probably exist still. So then
I think we can safely say.
Yeah, so probably, like, there's lots of qualifications, but there's that. I think that's the line to take. And but being open to finding out more, I sometimes I find myself double thinking and wondering whether I should back off it completely. And that's because people I respect raise real concerns about letting students near it. But I think that's one that's still worth exploring because it's out there.
Yeah.
But the details, we probably would disagree less on the details than the polemics. So if I'm saying, actually, we've got this app on that students can use for this specific thing 2 months before their exams to do X, Y, and Z, and it's carefully monitored. It's very different from saying, the old research lessons, you've all got Chromebooks, use AI to learn.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not doing that.
It's the guardrails that's important here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Right. Okay. I have got another question for you. This might be our last, Ben. Depends.
Okay.
I want to ask about what keeps you going. We've just had a really interesting discussion about something that's so quickly changing. It can feel potentially threatening or frightening. In times like this, what keeps you going?
What I'm going to do is what I always do now when I'm asking the questions is to give the answerer some time to think. I'm going to refer briefly to our sponsors. So here we go. Just a reminder, while our interviewee is thinking hard about his answer, this show is brought to you by Hachette Learning, who publish professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools all across the world. Level up your professional development today and visit www.hachetteLearning.com. And Hachette is spelled HACHETTE to explore the full range of titles. And AQA also sponsor the show. They know teachers are experts in the classroom. They're trying to work closely with ourselves to combine insights with their assessment expertise, and they're the largest in the UK, to improve what they do, to help improve what we do. That's why they're the UK's most chosen assessment organisation. If you want to find out more about the teacher support that's available, then head to their website, so AQA's website, or search AQA We Work with Experts. So it's great to hear from them. They also normally give my guests time to think about that question, which is difficult when you're also reading those key messages. But I will say I remember the question, which is what keeps me going.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go for 3 things. So the first one was actually, I'm stealing Matt Evans' answer to this question, where he told the parable of the sun and the wind and the rain, and they're having a argument about who can make this chap take off his coat, and the wind blows and the rain, and the sun, just warmth, gets there in the end. And when I get busy and frantic, I sometimes forget that people become impediments or problems, and I'm worse. So be more sun. I quite like that idea. Yeah.
Rather than turning stormy when things get difficult.
Essentially, yes. Yeah, and that's kind of a perspective thing. But then my own version of the sun, back when I was going to be a seminary professor, I still like this writer. There's a guy called Henry Newen who was a kind of devotional writer, and he went and spent some time in a monastery, I think Genesee in New York, possibly. I could be wrong because it's been a while. And he talks about just reflecting on the world in this monastery for a long time. And he goes out on a bus trip for some reason, and he's just struck by all the people around him. And he says their faces are shining like the sun, but they're all, in his language, they're kind of, children of God that deserve a chance. But I don't have the religious side of it, but that's the bit. If you can remember that in the moment, it really helps. So they're quite abstract, but be more sun, people shining like the sun. But then just day to day, I think fun is important, like jokes, finding the humor in things, and the little stories that keep you going. You never know what impact you're having in any given moment. That's just remembering that, and that you can't plan for them and you can't rely on them. But, every once in a while you'll hear this student, when X, Y happened, they thought about this, or they'll thank you for this thing. You never know when that's going to be. No, and I think the further you go in your career,
it's wonderful when it happens, isn't it?
Yes. And then that starts to be, I think, as I get a bit more senior, that's more likely to happen with staff than students as well. Not always. And again, I'm sure lots of staff I bore with sessions and input that doesn't really land or work. But when you make a difference to another person's capacity to get through the day, that helps me. So I used to really dislike the first day of term because I was overwhelmed with all the stuff that hits you out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Still find it tricky, but then it seems just like a framing thing. So maybe it almost sounds silly when you say it. But when I realized lots of other people felt the same, not everyone, interestingly, some people go in and really enjoy the buzz of the first day back, but realizing there's lots of people like me, and then my job that day is to help them, makes it a great day. It's framing is what keeps me going, I think. Being able to step back and get perspective, which is easier said than done, but it really helps when you can do it.
And when you've got a story like that you can tell yourself.
Yes.
It's really important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Ben, it's always a pleasure talking. We got deep into AI there, didn't we?
We did. We got really a little way into AI. There's always more, isn't there? And I feel like maybe we should come back with more in the medium future. I don't know if you agree. I'm hoping so.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure talking. I always learn so much listening to you. I really appreciate you asking me on and giving me the opportunity to ask the questions this time. It's been fascinating.
How did you find it? The other side of the whatever is the microphone? I think we kind of flipped back and forth a bit, but
here's what I've found, Ben. You make it look easy. It's much it's much harder than you might think.
Being a guest is tough as well. So there's that, isn't there? But while we're here, a real thank you to Teachers Talk Radio for hosting us both. And a reminder that there's shows that go out all through the week, all kinds of topics. They're worth following up on. And if you've listened and thought, I could host, or you'd like to be a guest, do get in touch with us because we're always looking for more. So thank you very much for listening. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to Tom Rogers, who I think has pulled quite a long day. He was a guest on the last show. He's in the background helping with this one. And we'll be back. My next guest is Robbie Coleman, who has spent a lot of time working with the EEF and now works training teachers. And he's got a particularly interesting model of these simulations where you get teachers to think carefully about an actual scenario, to respond live, and then those working with those teachers get to look exactly at kind of the thinking behind the decisions that we make almost without thinking as teachers. So there's more of that to come next month. And I think we can promise that later this year, Martin and I will hopefully be back with another show. So there we go. That's it.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.